Most people spend their lives trying to get out of debt. They work overtime to pay off their credit cards. They celebrate when they finally finish paying their mortgage. And they dream about the day they become completely debt-free. So here's a strange question. If someone has $100 million, why would they borrow another $50 million? It doesn't make sense. If you're rich enough to buy almost anything you want, why would you willingly take on debt? Yet that's exactly what many wealthy people do. Some of the richest people in the world borrow millions, sometimes even billions of dollars. Not because they're running out of money, not because they can't afford what they want, but because borrowing can actually help them preserve and sometimes grow their wealth. So why do rich people never seem to stop borrowing? The answer begins with one simple misunderstanding. Most people think being rich means having lots of cash. But that's usually not true. Imagine you own a company that's worth $500 million. On paper, you're incredibly wealthy, but that doesn't mean you have $500 million sitting in a bank account. Most of your wealth is tied up in the business itself. The same thing happens with investors. Someone might own stocks worth $50 million. Another person may own several apartment buildings. Someone else owns factories, land, or private companies. These people are wealthy because they own valuable assets, not because they're holding huge amounts of cash. And that's an important difference, because the moment they sell those assets, several things can happen. First, they stop owning something that could continue increasing in value. Second, selling may trigger taxes, depending on the country, the asset, and how much it has appreciated. And finally, they lose an asset that could keep producing income for years to come. So if selling isn't the smartest move, where does the cash come from? This is where wealthy people do something that seems completely backwards. Instead of selling, many wealthy people choose another option. They borrow. Let's say someone owns a stock portfolio worth $20 million. Instead of selling $2 million worth of stock to buy another investment, they go to a bank. But why would a bank lend millions of dollars to someone who isn't selling anything? Because the bank isn't lending money based only on income. They're lending against valuable assets. The bank looks at those assets and says, "Your portfolio is valuable. We'll lend you money using those investments as collateral." Now, the wealthy investor has the cash they need, but they still own every share of stock. If those investments continue to grow over time, their wealth may continue growing while they still have access to borrowed money. It's a strategy that's very different from how most people think about debt. Most people borrow to buy things that lose value. A new car, the latest phone, furniture, vacations. The money's gone, but the debt remains. Many wealthy people try to do the opposite. They borrow to avoid selling assets they believe will continue creating wealth. Notice the difference. The loan isn't the investment. The assets are. The debt is simply a tool. But there's still one problem. Banks don't lend money for free. They charge interest, sometimes a lot of it. So why would anyone willingly agree to pay millions in interest? Because they believe the assets they're holding, or the opportunity they're financing, will be worth more than the total cost of borrowing. Imagine borrowing money at a relatively low interest rate to invest in expanding a profitable business. If the business earns more than the borrowing costs over time, the loan may have helped create additional value, but it's never guaranteed. If the investment performs poorly or borrowing costs rise significantly, debt can magnify losses just as easily as it can magnify gains. That's why borrowing is a powerful tool, but also a risky one. And that's something many people overlook. The wealthy don't borrow because debt is magical. They borrow because they believe the numbers make sense. Another reason wealthy people borrow is flexibility. Imagine you own a shopping center. It's worth $30 million. But finding a buyer could take months. Now imagine an incredible business opportunity appears tomorrow. If all your wealth is locked inside that property, selling it quickly might not be practical. Borrowing lets you access cash without immediately giving up the asset. For business owners, this can make it easier to move quickly when opportunities arise. There's one final advantage that may be even more important. Control. Imagine you're the founder of a successful company. If you keep selling shares every time you need money, eventually you own less and less of the business. That means less voting power, less influence, and less participation in the company's future growth. Borrowing allows some owners to raise money while keeping their ownership intact. That's one reason many founders prefer loans over selling large portions of their businesses. Now you might be wondering, does this mean everyone should borrow more? Absolutely not. There's a huge difference between how most wealthy people use debt and how many ordinary consumers use it. Wealthy borrowers often have valuable assets, diversified income, and a plan for repayment. Many consumer loans are used to buy things that decline in value or don't generate income. The same tool can produce very different outcomes depending on how it's used. Debt itself isn't good or bad, it's simply leverage. Used carefully, it can help people or businesses invest, expand, or preserve ownership. Used carelessly, it can become a financial burden that's difficult to escape. And that's the biggest misconception of all. People often think borrowing is what makes wealthy people rich. It isn't. So why do rich people never stop borrowing? Because they don't see debt the same way most people do. They don't automatically ask, how can I eliminate every loan? Instead, they ask, is borrowing the smartest way to keep my assets working while still giving me access to cash? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no. But the decision isn't driven by emotion, it's driven by the numbers. And that's perhaps the biggest lesson of all. The wealthy don't necessarily become rich because they borrow. They become rich because they understand when borrowing helps them protect and grow valuable assets, and when it doesn't. In the end, money isn't just about how much you have. It's about knowing how to use every financial tool wisely.